When Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos first faced off in 2011, between the two of them, they had basically cleared out the entire heavyweight division, and had done so in a merciless trail of blood and destruction. Junior was straight up decapitating motherfuckers, while Cain would take whatever measure necessary to grind your bones and make bread. When their inexorable collision course finally came to a head, Cain had just relieved B-Boy Testosterone of his belt, while Junior had gone through Shane Carwin like a hot knife through a giant-ass slab of genetically enhanced butter. I don't know about Carwin, but I'm pretty sure Brock had the Mississippi River as steroids flowing directly up his fucking ass. And so together, Cain and Junior had just obliterated the growing sense that heavyweight was entering a new era where mortal men could no longer compete with the new breed of jacked 265-pound monsters. They reaffirmed that this is not just a sport of size or strength. This is still a game of skill here. The big question remaining was whose skills would reign supreme, who truly was the baddest motherfucker on this planet. That question took 2 years, 3 fights, and 11 merciless rounds to answer. At the inaugural UFC on Fox, Cain got knocked out in 64 seconds, lost his belt, and proceeded to eat a ton of shit, especially from the biggest mouth in the sport. Dana White had clearly placed all of his Mexican eggs in the Velasquez basket and was openly critical of Cain and his game plan. I can't find the post-fight interview, but I do remember Dana was acting like a fucking baby in dire need of a nappy change. But despite the devastating loss and all the criticism, Cain showed just what a demon he can be by bouncing back. No nerves, no fear, nothing but focus and fury. And he handed Dos Santos two of the most drawn-out and comprehensive beatdowns I've ever seen. Over 10 rounds, Cain smashed the fuck out of Junior and molested him all over the octagon, until finally a battered, bloody, exhausted Titan face-planted into the canvas, utterly defeated. The dust had finally settled on the rivalry. There was no doubt. Cain Velasquez stood alone atop the heavyweight mountain, the baddest motherfucker on this planet, and for many, the most imposing figure since Fedor Emelianenko. The trilogy had some pretty ominous implications about the trajectory of Junior's career. Firstly, people reasonably speculated that as long as Cain's around, the only way Junior would be getting his hands on a belt is if he broke into Velasquez's house and stole it. But beyond that, a worrying consequence of the incredible heart and durability Cigano displayed in those fights was that he may have sustained the type of career-threatening damage that some fighters just do not recover from. Would Junior ever look the same again? Were his best days behind him? It was amid this climate of speculation and uncertainty that Junior returned 14 months later. The man standing in his way was Stipe Miocic. Stipe had emerged as the division's dark horse, 6-1 in the UFC with a couple quality wins. Most notably, he beat the dog shit out of Roy Nelson. But his ascent up the ranks had been hampered when he ran into a brutal barrage of strikes from Stefan Struve. Personally, that loss was large in my mind at the time, and I was skeptical about Stipe's chances of handling a huge step up in competition against an elite power-punching murderer like Junior Dos Santos. Huge fight for both guys. For Junior, it was an opportunity to reinforce the gap between himself and Cain and the rest of the division, and to showcase some of the evolution required to ever sell a fourth encounter with Velasquez. He desperately wanted to show some signs of evolution. I believe most of the heavyweights based on my recent fights with Velasquez think that the best way to fight me is put pressure the whole time. But you have to understand, Velasquez is Velasquez. Velasquez has incredible cardio for a heavyweight. It's hard for any other heavyweight to do what he does. Life is evolution, especially when you're an athlete. I have evolved a lot since I came to Rio. I see the fights from a different perspective now. You have to get out of your comfort zone to evolve, and that's what happened to me. I hope I can show my fans how much I have evolved. For Stipe, it was his chance to prove he belongs among the heavyweight elite and stake a claim for the winner of Verdum and Velasquez. He's fought for the title plenty of times. He's been champion. He's been sidelined for a while, but definitely once I beat him, I think I should get that chance. Junior's sentiments on pressure proved premonitory. Stipe piled on the pressure early, backed Junior to the fence, mixed takedown attempts with boxing, and repeatedly caught Junior on a break. After 2 rounds, Junior was bloody and beaten, and most spectators felt Stipe was up too. But in the 3rd round, Junior caught Stipe charging him with his hands down, landed a thunderous left hand and dropped Stipe to the canvas. That knockdown proved to be the turning point, and although the rest of the fight was a war, it was a war most people felt Junior edged, and so he escaped from the jaws of defeat. But only by the skin of his fucking teeth. Many fans and media members who had speculated that Junior would never be the same again actually saw this fight as validation of that prediction. Junior had edged it, but the margin was so slim. The performance was mostly one-dimensional. There were no signs of the touted evolution. And sadly, he really didn't look like the same athlete. One media member on Bleacher Report almost sounded ready to close the casket on Junior's career as a contender. UFC heavyweight champion Velasquez ruined Dos Santos. Despite being more than a year removed from his most recent fight with Velasquez, the Brazilian appears worn down, ragged, and burnt out. Cigano is only 30 years old, but he moved like a much older man against Miocic Saturday evening. The heavyweight champion took years off the Santos fighting life. And while those comments are harsh and a little premature, one thing was undeniable. Junior was no longer the perennial number 2 heavyweight. The era of Kane and Junior lording over the rest of the division was over, and Cigano's slide continued. I had always regarded Junior as the most elite example of an archetype and mentality that had repeatedly caused Overeem problems throughout his career. A talented power puncher, a tenacious temperament, and an undeniable determination to test his opponent's chin. On multiple occasions, we've seen Overeem start fights as the more talented fighter, but eventually wilt and succumb to the tenacity of a less technical opponent. But the Santos never really got going in this one. In the 1st round, he was uncharacteristically tentative. He took the center of the octagon, but threw very few strikes, and it was Overeem landing the bigger shots, busting Junior's nose. In round 2, Overeem's confidence grew, and he began trying to time Junior coming in, eventually knocking him down with a thunderous left hand and finishing with strikes. You know, in the Stipe fight, Dos Santos may not have looked his best, but he still had the characteristic heart and aggression. In the Overeem fight, and really for the first time in his career, he offered an almost unrecognizable performance. Junior went down, and he really was not swinging. Those who had closed the coffin on his career were now writing its obituary. Junior himself was clearly devastated by the loss, and completely aware of the fact that he was starting to look like a completely different animal. I feel like I disappointed people, especially those people that believe in me and are always rooting for me. That was hard. I'm still learning. I'm still learning about the things I did, and there's so many mistakes in that fight. I'm not taking anything away from Overeem. He did great and had a great game plan and strategy. But I wasn't feeling the normal Junior Dos Santos, so I want to bring back the normal Junior Dos Santos so that I can win my fights and make my fans proud of me. Now, outside of a trip in a fucking DeLorean with little Marty McFly, bringing back the normal Junior Dos Santos seemed like a pretty dubious prospect. But against the awkward Ben Rothwell, who had been on an unexpected and violent surge up the ranks, Junior did return to form. A masterclass in footwork and range, perpetual motion, in and out all night. Dos Santos butchered Rothwell with the jab and was back throwing those wicked power punches with ruthless intentions, on the way to a 5-round, one-sided shutout for the former champion. If this wasn't quite vintage Sagano, it was certainly a huge step in that direction. A resurrection and a rebuttal to his critics. Hey, don't bury me yet, you motherfuckers. That win and a confluence of other factors in the heavyweight division have somehow catapulted Junior into another title shot. A rematch with Miocic. A familiar foe, but by no means the same old Stipe. His loss to Junior appeared to expedite the development of Stipe's career. After going 5 rounds with him, I was good. I knew I could hang with anyone after that. I definitely showed that I do belong in a division at the top tier. I proved that I can hang with anyone. My confidence went up. And his subsequent title campaign was out-fucking-standing. Setting a record for the most strikes landed in a single fight, he completely and comprehensively annihilated Mark Hunt. Molly whopped the fuck out of Andre Arlovski to earn a shot at the belt. Now, if Verdum had been chasing a fly with a feather duster, that would have been one thing. But as he quickly discovered, running into a devastating, brutal power puncher with complete reckless abandon is a shortcut to unconsciousness and the fastest route to relinquishing your belt. In his first title defense, Stipe overcame an early knockdown against Overeem and demolished the Demolition Man inside 5 minutes. Stipe Miocic has emerged as the unexpected hero at heavyweight, an exciting, active champion, and a refreshing return to order for a division that had been plagued by pullouts, layoffs, late replacements, fight cancellations, and interim belts. Stipe has put the division back on track. Next Saturday, Junior will march to the center of the octagon and summon Miocic back for another 5 rounds of hell. But as I said, while it might be a familiar foe, it sure as shit ain't the same old Stipe. And in order for Junior to conquer this monster he helped create, he's gonna have to continue winding back the clock. I really don't have a dog in this fight. It's hard to root against either guy. But I do hope we see some vintage Junior Dos Santos, the man who tore the heavyweight division asunder. And a performance that reiterates that statement he made in his last performance. Hey, don't bury me yet, you motherfuckers.